absolutely no reason to buy store-bought caramel when making your own is so easy and so much more delicious. Caramel sauce only has 3 basic ingredients: sugar, heavy cream, butter, and if you want to, you can add a little vanilla as well. We start off with the sugar, and it should be refined sugar because unrefined can crystallize. I like to add a little water because that helps it to dissolve. But basically, all caramel is sugar where all the water has been evaporated to the point where it's beginning to brown. Now, store-bought caramel sauce is often bitter because the caramel is brought to too high a temperature. I like it to be a dark brown, but not burnt. So I start off by heating this sugar and water. And I often use a non-stick pan because that way all of the caramel will come out. It won't stick to the bottom of the pan. It's important to make sure that all of the sugar has dissolved in the water, because if you have little crystals of sugar on the side of the pan, it takes only 1 crystal to crystallize the entire batch and that they don't melt down again. So before you start heating it, make sure that all of the sugar is moistened. Continue stirring until it comes to a full boil. As soon as it starts boiling, take out the spatula, don't allow it to drip back in, and rinse it off because we're going to use the spatula later on. And we don't want any grains of sugar to go back into the sugar syrup. And now we can bring up the heat. Once all the water has evaporated, it will start caramelizing. Today I'm not using a non-stick pan, but the advantage of using a non-stick pan is that none of the caramel sticks to the bottom of the pan, so you get to eat all of it. It's beginning to brown, and you have to be very careful because not only is it extremely hot, but caramel sticks to you. So if it were to land on your skin, it would be burning you and you couldn't take it off. So be very, very careful when working with caramel. Now, here's the trick of telling when it's the right temperature when you don't have a thermometer, is you put a heat-proof spatula into the mixture at this point. Don't stir, but just you can see the color of the caramel against that white. If you were to use a red spatula, you would not be able to tell what color it's getting to. Of course, you can smell it, but the true test is the color. You want it to be a deep amber, but not beginning to get blackened or too brown. And it goes very fast at this point. Like a mahogany brown. Okay, remove it from the heat. And now we're going to add the heavy cream. Make sure that the cream is either heated or at least at room temperature, because if it's cold, it will spatter like crazy. And I use a ladle so I can keep a safe distance from it. And see how it's bubbling up? Because I used cream that's at room temperature, it's not spattering out of the pan, although it's getting really close. I sometimes do this right in the sink, so if it does bubble over, it will bubble over in the sink. If the cream were cold, it would start hardening. So then I would put it back on the flame and continue stirring for maybe 1 or 2 minutes until it becomes smooth again. Now you want to let this sit off heat until it stops bubbling, and then you can transfer it to a bowl or a heat-proof measuring cup. And now we can stir in the butter, and at first it will be streaky, but once it melts in, it will be totally smooth. And at this point, if you're adding a little vanilla, you would add it now. Otherwise, all the vanilla just bubbles away and evaporates. You'd think that this is going to be very soupy, but when it cools off, it will be thick enough to pour. You could pipe it. It thickens considerably on cooling. Right now, it's very, very hot. Now, see how this is beginning to incorporate in? And once you've stirred it in, just let it sit undisturbed. And if it's still slightly streaky, when it's totally cooled down, give it a slight stir, and that's it. So remember, it's easy, it's much more delicious, and I do hope that you'll try it.